Sports Radio 910's Gary Hess and Gary Criswell. We're here at Hermitage High School, where tonight it was a 42-24 Panther win over Mills Godwin. An impressive night for Eli Odom and the Hermitage offense.
Hermitage continues its undefeated campaign with a backup quarterback who looked like he might be hard to unseat. And they were very, very efficient. They balanced on offense. They gave a little bit on defense, but their special teams ensured that Godwin had to drive the long field, and they came up with a solid 3-touchdown victory.
In the first half, Odom was 11 for 11, then threw an incomplete pass on a long play on the final play of the half. 11 for 11, 3 touchdowns to 3 different receivers, especially in the first half. He really showed his skills.
Yeah, and the Hermitage offensive system really plays to his skills. And towards the end of the game, in the third quarter, he even showed it a run mentality that we were looking for to even make the attack more dangerous. But that's what good football teams are able to do now, especially with the modern offenses, is to stretch the teams vertically and horizontally, make them chase skilled players in the open field. Hermitage does that, and they have a power running game to go with it.
Jonte Wilson, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns tonight. So the offense is in high gear. You've got those 2 great defensive tackles, some other playmakers on defense, maybe a few things to work on. But 2 weeks away from the playoffs, how do you see, what's the upside potential for this Hermitage?
Well, I know this. They needed and they received a stiff competitor in Mills Godwin who gave them a look at a power offense. May come in handy again with Loyce Bird looming in the background. Play action passing game. All those things very, very important to see in real time as you prepare for the playoffs.
And of course, preparing for the playoffs, they're coming up. Just 2 more games to go. Very exciting time of year. But before we get to that, Logan McPherson, first-year coach at Godwin, starting to build something with this Eagle program.
Started off very slow. Did have a loss against a playoff contender in Monacan, but stumbled in the early weeks. They look so good at times. I'm going, how did they do?
Right.
How did they start 0-2?
Exactly.
And so they've got a lot of things to be proud of. They're going to win out. They've got an outside chance of sneaking into the playoffs themselves. But I think a really, really strong performance from the Mills Godwin crowd. And I believe that down the road, that program it seems to be in the right hands.
Now, of course, looking elsewhere tonight, Atlee and Armstrong. Armstrong gets off to a great start, and Atlee just a barrage of points to move into next week's battle with Highland Springs on a high note.
Yeah, and that's what Atlee does, especially at home. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when they're over at the Vic playing Highland Springs on Halloween. Again, it'd be more interesting with the old school where it would be an elimination game. But it's not an elimination game, and I'm glad for that because both these teams have offenses and opportunistic defenses that they could be a factor in any playoff scenario. But next week is going to, I don't think the fact that it's not an elimination game is going to eliminate the anticipation. And I think the game itself is going to be very, very exciting. 2 really, really good offenses. And like I said, the defense that can make a couple of plays, maybe a couple of takeaways, will probably come away with a win.
And, of course, Highland Springs still has to play Henrico tomorrow afternoon over at Henrico. That's a highly anticipated game as well. Another game I really want to ask you about, L.C. Bird, 60 points on Cosby tonight. David Bedwell's got the Skyhawks rounding into form at the right time.
You'd have to assume that, and anybody that cannot reel off 2 or 3 first downs run the distinct possibility the Bird offense will eventually just, even if your defense is stiff in the beginning, will eventually just wear you down. And I think that's what teams that want to position themselves as a contender to take Birds what has been their perpetual march to the state tournament. If they're going to take that crown away from them, they're going to have to control the football.
And 2 weeks to go in the regular season. Here's our plan. Halloween, Atlee, Highland Springs, then week 10, November 7th, Bird and Manchester. What a great way to close out the regular season here on Sports Radio 910 for high school football, and then playoff football to come after that. This is the time of year where it really gets exciting.
Absolutely, and again, we've sometimes neglect our Division VI contenders, which now, do we have any?
Right.
Thomas
Dale.
Yeah, Thomas Dale. That's exactly right. Who went to 6-2 and everybody
After an 0-2 start.
And we agree that nobody wants them right now. And our Division IV teams are around in shape. Dinwiddie came back tonight to win.
Monacan.
We were a little bit concerned with Hanover at first because Lee Davis jumped out to a big lead on them, but they righted the ship and they continue to improve now that Clayton Cheatham's back at quarterback. So it's a fun time right now. Week 9 should be fun with all these playoff scenarios.
And we're going to stay on top of it. Your home for high school sports, Sports Radio 910.